Hey y'all, today is Friday, July 24th, and I'm coming with what's going to be, I think it's day 5 of that 7-day challenge of surviving to thriving. And it's a new word. It's not going to be an old word. God gave me this at the early this morning, like 5-6 o'clock this morning. But it's going to stem from 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verses 5 through 15. And so before I start reading, the message in here is, dang, I forgot what I'm supposed to. Opposition. Okay, so then this is different. I don't know which one I should do first. Okay, so yes, I'm gonna do this one, and then the other one is gonna be for tomorrow. Sorry, y'all. So, this is going to be part 2 for the one yesterday, talking about, a seed planted today does not grow today. This one is going to be like a seed planted in this area may not sprout in this area, or a seed planted by this person may not be watered by this person. The thing about it is, when God gives you a seed, whether that be a promise of marriage, a promise of a promotion, a promise of a job opportunity, a promise of a business venture, it does not mean that it's supposed to take place in that time frame. It does not mean that it's supposed to take place in that environment. The thing about it is, like it's going to say in what I'm going to read, even the people that you think are supposed to be attached to that seed may not be attached to that seed. God is a God, and He is a God who finishes His work, but it does not mean that the people that you start off with are the people that you're going to end with. It does not mean that the place you start off is the place where you're going to receive the promise, or the place where you're going to see God's goodness in. God is a God who pivots. And I say all the time, God is a God of transition, not tradition. Meaning He is a God who changes things. He strategizes. If you read throughout all the different battles in the Bible, there's almost no two battles that are the same. There's almost no two battles. There are some battles where God had the people fighting, the opponents fighting each other. It wasn't even God's people and the opponents. Something happened and the opponents fought each other. There were some battles where God's people did fight. There are some battles where God handed the opponents over to the people. Like, there are no two battles that are the same. God uses different strategy when it comes to perfecting His will in our life, completing His good work. And I talked about this before, when God says He will complete His work, He's going to complete His work. But our definition of completion may not be what God's definition is. And like I said, I even talked about me with school. With the last degree that I was in, God had me in school for construction management. And then I had to stop because of financial reasons, and I haven't gone back. And I had talked to God, like, God, when am I going to go back to school? How am I going to finish this? Whole time, God may have just wanted me to take some classes to bring my GPA up so that I can start school for something else. God may have wanted me to complete several certain courses in order for me to start the real estate stuff. I don't know. I just know God told me to go to school. But if we're being honest, He never said that school was going to be something that was completed, and He never said that school was something that was not going to be completed. Again, whatever God wants to do in my life, He's going to do. I might not go back to complete that degree for a whole 5 years. I don't know. I just know that I'm following what God wants me to do, and the seeds that God plants today may not sprout the way that I think that they should, may not be completed and watered the way that I think they should. The things that I think I need, or the things that I think God wants, may not be what God wants. God is going to complete His work. God is going to fulfill His will. It does not say God is going to fulfill my will. It does not say God is going to complete my work. It says God is going to complete His work. And so in this specific passage, I'm gonna just go ahead and read it, starting at verse 5. It says, after all, who is Apollos? Who is Paul? We are only God's servants through whom you believe the good news. Each of us did the work the Lord gave us. I planted the seed in your hearts and Apollos watered it, but it was God who made it grow. It's not important who does the planting or who does the watering. What's important is that God makes the seed grow. The one who plants and the one who waters work together with the same purpose, and both will be rewarded for their own hard work. For we are both God's workers, and you are God's field. You are God's building. Because of God's grace to me, I have laid the foundation like an expert builder. Now others are building on it, but whoever is building on this foundation must be very careful, for no one can lay any foundation other than the one we already have, Jesus Christ. Anyone who builds on that foundation may use a variety of materials: gold, silver, jewels, wood, hay, or straw. But on the judgment day, fire will reveal what kind of work each builder has done. The fire will show if a person's work has any value. If the work survives, that builder will receive a reward. But if the work is burned up, the builder will suffer great loss. The builder will be saved, but like someone barely escaping through a wall of flames. And so if you go back to the first part of that, Paul says, Apollo, I planted the seed, Apollos waters it, but God is what makes it grow. And that's the same thing in the area of life where I'm talking about God's promises or the things that God wants you to perfect and wants to do in your life. God brings all of that together. And so where it says, I planted, but Apollos water, I want you to think about the people who God has had move all the way. I gave you all around. I gave you the promise in this area, but the promise did not even come to pass until you got to this area. God usually does not plant and grow a seed in the same area. You move around, and I think those are more faith-building activities. This is more, are you going to trust me? As in God, are you going to trust me with what I'm trying to do in your life? Are you going to trust that my word still stands no matter where you're at, no matter who you're attached to? Do you trust me, or do you trust this seed? And that's where it makes me think about Genesis chapter 22, when Isaac was sacrificed, when Abraham was going to sacrifice him. That is the number one telltale sign on if you are allowing that seed that God has placed into your life to become an idol. Because at any time, no matter what that seed is, you should be willing and able to give it up. God, you told me this was for me, but you should be able to give it up. If God tells you to give it up, you should be able to give it up. So now I'm going in a whole different other direction. You should be able to give up that seed that God plants in your life, because it is God who gave it to you, and it is God who will water it, and it is God who will perfect it and allow it to grow. It is God who is going to allow it to sprout and break surface, break dirt. You have to be willing to give it up. And so what that means is sometimes it's not always giving up the seed. Sometimes it's giving up the environment that the seed was given to you. So for me, going to Colorado, I can use that as an example, because when I got to Colorado, I had very specific ideas on how I was going to bring God's promise to fruition. So my construction business, me working in real estate, me working in property management, and renting to low income families, I had a very, very specific vision on how that was going to take place, right? And so that was part of the reason why I did not want to leave Colorado, because I didn't do that. I didn't do it. Why would I want to do what you told me to do? I want to do that over here. I don't want to leave until I have at least started it. I wasn't trying to go, but God has been on me, and this passage speaks so much because God gave me that seed while I was in Colorado. Actually, he gave it to me before I went to Colorado, but God gave me that seed back then at that time. And yeah, I thought that the environment that it was supposed to grow in was Colorado, but God is bringing me back to where and y'all, let's just be real. I'm saying God is bringing me back, but God can move me to a whole nother place and say that's where it's supposed to take place. That's where it's going to sprout at. You just have to be willing to trust God more than you trust the seed, to trust God more than you trust the results that you don't see. You have to trust God more than your desire for this seed to sprout. You have to trust God more than all of that. And again, it does not matter where God gives you that seed, because God is the one who grows it. Wherever he places you, that's the final destination. That's where it's going to grow, wherever he places you. It's not about what you want and what you don't want. It's not about how you feel about the situation. It's about what God wants for you, for this seed, for all the people who are supposed to be attached to it. This is God's vision. This is the thing about it. The seeds that God places in our lives, those are God's seeds. He's just using us as a vessel to get it out. All of this belongs to him. Your marriage, your children, your businesses, your ministry, all of that belongs to God. You are just a willing vessel. None of that is yours. Yeah, you may benefit from it. Yeah, you may receive the fruit of your labor, but it's not yours. It's God's. It is God's, and he is using you as a vessel, but he can't use a vessel who is not willing, or a vessel who is too attached to their environment, or a vessel who is too attached to a person, or a vessel who is too attached to the seed. At any point, you should be able to give up that seed. At any point. You should be able to say, well, God, you telling me to give it up. I feel like you telling me to give it up, so I'm going to give it up. You should be able to do that. If you are not doing that, you need to ask God to check your heart for signs of idolization. You may be idolizing your seed. You may be idolizing the environment that you're in. You may be idolizing the kingdom husband, kingdom wife, trend. Like for me, I have a lot of new people here, but God told me that I was going to marry my best friend October 5th, 2021. 4 years, I stood on that. God is going to have me marry him. God is going to have me marry him. And there were many, many situations or many, many scenarios in there where God was telling me I needed to put that Isaac on the altar. And I did not understand that, did I? I did not understand. What do you mean give it up? You told me you were going to give it to me. Why would I give that up? I didn't understand that. And then now I'm in a place where I'm like, gotten a lot of the reason why I struggle with giving it up, because before God gave me that promise of marriage, I never wanted to be a business owner. I never wanted to be a writer. I never wanted to have a podcast. The things that I want to do now, I never wanted to do those before. God telling me that that man was my husband was the very first promise that he gave me. That was the very first word that God spoke to me. So anything that came after that, I always imagined that my best friend was going to be a part of that. I did not imagine that I was going to have that, or that I even could have that without him being attached to it. And God had to tell me multiple times, but also I really came to understand it when I stopped dealing with him. I'm going to do my ministry regardless, because God can use anybody. With my businesses, with my ministry, with my podcast, with all the things that God wants me to do, I could do that with another husband. He's not needed for that. He's not necessary for that. God placed him in it because God graced him for it. And when God removed him from it, God replaced him with it. Y'all hear them bars? Told y'all I'm a rapper. But God placed him because God graced him, and now God has replaced him. I'm not concerned about my ministry or my business. I haven't thought about that man in months. And if God would ever want me to go back to him, me and God are going to have to talk a little bit. I want some understanding a little bit, but I would be a willing vessel. I would be willing to do what he wants me to do. But you have to be willing to give up that seed. You have to be willing to give up the version of you, or the version of the seed that you thought it was going to be. I'm excited to do my ministry with my husband, whomever he is. I'm excited to do my business ventures with him and have these partnerships with my husband and have this ministry with my husband, whoever it may be. It may be somebody that I know. It may be somebody that I do not know. Either way, my stuff is going to move with or without him. And when God brings him, God is bringing in addition to that. And even then, I can say, God used my best friend to groom me into a wife, because I was not a wife. Let's just be honest. When I met my best friend, I had a lot of issues still. I did not respect men. I did not value men. And so I did not see the value in being married or being partnered with anybody. And then that 3.5 year journey with him, I learned how to be submissive. I learned how to be kind. I learned how to be sweet to my man. I learned how to be a nice person. I learned how to communicate with people. I learned those things. God planted the seed with him, or God planted the seed in me God used him to water it, and God is going to grow it elsewhere. Or you could look at it as he planted the seed in me, as somebody else is going to water it, and God is going to grow it. However you want to look at it, either way, that seed still exists, even though he's not going to be attached to it. The seed still exists. The promise of marriage is still there. I know I'm going to be a wife. I know I'm going to be a wife. I feel crazy saying it, but soon. I know that seed did not change just because the person changed. Now, to be clear, in no way, shape, or form am I telling y'all to do anything that I have done. I walked away from that man when God told me to. I did not walk away when it was hard. I did not walk away when it was difficult. I did not walk away when I wanted to. I walked away when God dismissed me from it. And it took me 2 different times, because God told me in April. I remember I was texting him, and it was not going well, and I had an alert, a notification from this motivation app, and it said, "You are enough. You've done enough. You can let go now." And I knew immediately when I saw that God was telling me that I can let it go. But then that was in April of 2025. And then I got here and I still wasn't sure, because I was like, well, God, I don't know. Like, this is when me and my ex started getting closer. And I was like, well, God, this is my thing. Like, I don't want to start nothing with somebody and then you bring this man back into my life, because I don't want the choice. I don't want to make a choice. I don't want God to give me options. I want God's best. I don't want his plan his plan B and his plan C. I want his plan A. I want the best plan that he has. I don't want to accept anything just to accept it. So when I started liking my ex a little bit more, I had the conversation with God, because I was like, I don't know. Like, everything in my ministry and stuff, you told me these things with my best friend. So say I move on with my ex or somebody else and he comes back around, do I say yes to him? If I say yes to him, am I missing out on this new blessing? Excuse me. If I say no to him and I go to this new person, am I missing out on my ministry and my other blessings because I'm choosing your option B instead of your option A? And God knew I was really distraught about that. And he came to me in a word that I listened to. And pretty much he told me I could move forward. If I want to talk to him again, I can. But I don't have to. And I don't, because I don't want to. I'm not mad at him. I don't dislike him. I don't hate him. I'm just the type of person that when I feel like your purpose has been served in my life and my purpose has been served in your life, we don't have to connect. We don't have to communicate. That's just how I am. But there's no bad blood at all. But yeah, it took me a while. So even then, even after April, I still remained open just in case God did want him to spin the block on me. But I stayed open and willing because I'm God's vessel. God planted the seed and I'm the vessel out of which the seed grows. So it's not about what I want to do. It's not about how I feel about a situation. It's about God's purpose and what he intends for this whole thing. So when I finally walked away in September, that was it. I forgot that man's name at one point in time. I did not even know his name anymore. Like, no, but yeah, so you have to be willing to get, so even me, like, feeling like I was supposed to do work in Colorado, maybe all the only work I was supposed to do there was go to school and open up the business bank accounts. Maybe God is going to move me back at some point in time. I don't know, but just because I'm not in that environment anymore doesn't mean that God isn't watering the seed. Doesn't mean that the seed won't sprout anywhere else. A lot of times, if you think about and you see people's ministry and they ever tell you about their testimony and their journey, a lot of time God plants a seed in them and he has them move. I don't know no person that I can think about right now where God has planted a seed in them and they are still in the same environment and that's where the seed has sprouted at. I don't know any person where that has taken place. I know God sometimes will bring you back. I know sometimes he will bring you back, but a lot of time, even Abraham in chapter 12, God told Abraham to leave his mother and father and leave their land. And God said, I'm going to take you to the land where you're going to go to. And then God took Abraham around a whole bunch of other places. At the time frame that the seed was given, it did not sprout at that time frame. And Abraham had a lot of life. He lived a lot of life in that meantime. Even David, when David received his kingship, David was anointed as the king when he was a kid. How many battles did David fight before he became king for real? How many things did David go through in his childhood up into his adult life until he became a king? The seed is almost never really sprouting in the place where it was initially given. There's a process that you have to go through. And even I want to say that with relationships too, marriage and other romantic and friendships and stuff like that, and family and stuff like that, sometimes the people that you start with are not the people that you end with. And again, do not take my word and my experience and take it on as it is for you, because if God has not told you to walk away from that person, you are not to walk away. If God has not told you to leave that person, you are not to leave them. If God has not told you that you need to reconnect with that person, you should not be reconnecting with them. So don't take my experience as this is something that you should do. I'm telling y'all my experience. I'm giving y'all biblical experience and biblical words and passages about it. And your job is to take it back to God and ask God how this applies to you. But either way, God is saying the same place that the seed is given, sometimes it does not sprout there. The same person that is around you or attached to you when the seed is first given may not be around when the seed sprouts. Because ultimately, God has given you that seed, and God is what's going to cause it to grow. You're not growing it. You're just being a willing vessel. God has placed that seed in you, and you are just a willing vessel that's going to get it out. And please believe, if you ever try to step outside of what God wants, God can replace you. Don't think that because, oh, God chose me for this, this is my seed because God gave it to me. Don't think that you can't lose it out of your disobedience, out of not being a willing vessel, out of not trying to use, y'all be real quick to, I'm going to use my free will. Okay, mess around and mess up your blessings if you want to, because you want to use your free will. Mess around and lose out on God's plan A because you want to use your free will. I'm not too fond on the free will. I mean, I'm not a perfect person, and there are some things that I do that God may not be pleased with, or God absolutely did not lead me to. It was my flesh. But for the most part, when it comes to the things that God wants me to do, rebellious or not, I do it. It might take me a little long, right? Like I said, God gave me the message about moving back to Georgia in March. I was supposed to move when my son got out of school in May. I didn't get here till July 3rd. Sometimes I be delaying my own blessings because I be going back and forth because of what I want and not really sitting with God to understand what he wants. I have to really sit with God. Really. And tell him everything, but also really be willing to do what he wants you to do, even when you don't understand it, even when you don't like it, even when you don't want it. I mean, I waited for a man to confess his love for me for 3.5 years. Almost 4 years. And I know y'all don't think that's what I wanted. If you know me, you know. No, it was plenty of times I wanted to walk away. My flesh wanted to walk away. But I stayed because that's what God wanted me to do. When I had the opportunity to walk away, when he dismissed me, I did that. But until God dismissed me, I stayed in it. Because that was the seed that God gave me. So, yeah, I kind of feel like this message was a little all over the place. Look, this thing said bioactive, complete B complex, heart, brain, and nerve support. It's called Life Extension. It's a vitamin. Complete B complex, heart, brain, nerve support. Life Extension. Yeah, I just I want God's plan A, and I don't necessarily care who's attached to it. I just want to be the willing vessel that God calls me to be. I want to inherit all of his goodness. I want to inherit all of the blessings. I want to be who God has called me to be. I want to marry the man that God wants me to marry. I want to have the kids that God wants me to have. I want to have the destiny partnerships that God wants me to have. And in order for me to have everything that God wants me to have, I have to be detached from the seed. So when you're in this season of going from surviving to thriving, you can't be attached to this stuff. You can't be attached to the seed, because when God wants to move and God wants to transition, you gonna miss your stop because you still trying to go, because you think that that's how you're supposed to go. God telling you to make a right, you still going straight because you think you're still supposed to be going. Because you're not following God, you're more attached to the seed, and you're more attached to the outcome of receiving the seed. So you're more attached to doing all of the work that you think is going to get you the seed faster. That's why that happens. Because your eyes are not focused on God. Your eyes are focused on receiving the outcome or the results from the seed. So as you are trying to plant the seed and you're looking at what's not working and what's not growing and how it's not working, you're now doing other things to try to get it to work and try to get it to grow and try to get it to do this. And you ain't even following God. Your eyes ain't even on God. Your eyes are on the seed and the results of the seed and doing what your mind thinks you need to do to receive the seed. Let the seed go. Let it go and let God grow it. Let it go and let God send people to water it. Let it go. He's laid the foundation. He gave you, he told you, this is what I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you that marriage. He's laid the foundation. He laid the foundation. That's it. That's your foundation. You got it right there, right? Now you have to allow him to bring your husband or your wife in. That means you have to allow him to do the healing inside of you. That means you have to allow him to rewire your mind, the things that you think are right, and God is saying, no, that's not right. That's not my way. That's not how I want you to move. You got to allow God to rewire that, and then he will bring that person onto a stable foundation, the same foundation that he gave you years ago when he said you are going to be married. Here's your business idea. God said you're going to be a millionaire. God said you're going to be doing this. That's your foundation. Now you got to let God build on top of that. You do whatever he's telling you to do so that y'all can build on top of it. And then in 3 years, when you see it, you see that everything is attached to this one foundation, this one thing. And at any point from this foundation, any of the people can be moved off of it. Any of the opportunities can be moved off of it. Any of the, I think I said people. Any of the, anything else can be moved off of it, and the foundation still stands. You're still supposed to be a business owner. You're still supposed to be married. You're still supposed to have a ministry. That's the foundation. The seed that God gives you is the foundation. Everything else is supposed to be built on top of that, but you are not the one that's building. God is building. God is just using you. God is the manager. God is the architect. God is the master workman. He's just telling you what to do, but you're doing what he said. You might be stacking the bricks, but he's telling you where to stack them at. You might be laying down the stairs, but he's telling you how to do that. You might be doing the plumbing, but he has printed out the blueprint and he told you, yeah, it goes right there. Don't put it in no other place. It goes right there. Whatever God has given you, whatever that seed is, it is the foundation. And you have to allow God to build on top of it. And remember, the things that may be around at the time that God gives you that seed, they may not be around at the end. The people, the opportunities, even the life experiences, the guardedness that you have, the skills and the defense mechanisms that you have once had to carry to protect yourself, by the time that house is built, they're not going to be there anymore, because God is going to remove all of that. Because what's given to you in seed form and what's attached to you at that time when the seed is given to you may not be around when the seed sprouts. That is the word I have for you guys today. I love y'all, and I will see you on my next one.